Thank you very much, John. Colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, a funny thing happened to me on the way to my concession speech. The people of Wisconsin told me to tear it up and go back to work. Thank you, Wisconsin. Thank you, Wisconsin. Thank you for your vote of confidence. Thank you for giving me more votes than any candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court in a contested election. Admittedly, the election was uncomfortably close. My opponent ran a very effective campaign. But now that all 72 counties have completed their canvasses, the result of the election is not in doubt. Please know how deeply appreciative I am to everyone who has contributed to this happy result, and many thousands of people have. Seeking and holding public office is one of the most challenging forms of public service. The exhilarating highs that come from election victories and from successes on issues are often accompanied by disappointments, from setbacks, rejections, and inevitable misjudgments. Elective office is never smooth because it is impossible to please everyone. In our system, the privilege of making public policy requires the consent of the people. I have been blessed for more than 3 decades to represent my community and the state in positions of responsibility, including the Wisconsin Legislature and the Supreme Court. The people of Wisconsin have given me an exciting and rewarding life with happiness far exceeding disappointment. I'm very grateful for the rare opportunities they have given me and have tried to repay the public's trust with a positive vision and my best effort. A public office is a public trust. I am proud to say that while I have certainly made misstatements and mistakes along the way, I have never broken the public trust. This proposition was challenged repeatedly and viciously throughout the campaign. My detractors set out to create a false picture of who I am and what I believe. Consequently, the election on April 5th amounted to an affirmation of my 30-plus years of public service. And words cannot fully express my gratitude to the people of Wisconsin and to my family, friends, volunteers, and supporters who made this victory possible. A statewide election victory is never a solo performance. This historic campaign could have gone either way. It undoubtedly tested our democratic principles. Nevertheless, despite all the uncertainties, all the tension, I continue to support the right of voters to decide in the privacy of the voting booth who they want as their justices and judges. Wisconsinites should not surrender this important right because of periodic frustrations about the messiness of democracy. Instead, we should all work to elevate the substance and etiquette of judicial campaigns. Wisconsinites have a right to hold their judicial officers accountable for their overall performance. If we give up that right, we abandon the very foundation of a Republican form of government. Now, we can learn several important lessons from this campaign. Powerful forces, not always clearly identified, attempted to turn this election for the Supreme Court into a referendum on the governor of Wisconsin and on specific pieces of legislation. With this referendum strategy, the qualifications, experience, even the identity of my opponent became irrelevant. Fortunately, Wisconsin voters rejected this effort. They ultimately understood that this election was about filling a 10-year term on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, and that candidates for the office should not commit themselves directly or indirectly on cases that have not yet come before this court. Voters also rejected scurrilous negative advertising. The blowback from that advertising helped to assure my reelection. The people of Wisconsin are too smart and far too decent to base their votes on personal smears. Voters want candidates for the Supreme Court to make an honest case for themselves, a positive case based on experience, performance, judicial philosophy, and independence. This was a decisive election about judicial independence. The people realize that judges should be much more than partisan politicians who wear black robes. Judges should be impartial in theory and in fact. They should faithfully apply the law without fear and without favor. My friend Richard Leffler, distinguished co-editor emeritus of the documentary History of the Ratification of the Constitution at the University of Wisconsin, has directed my attention to a quote from James Madison that dates from the time when Madison introduced the Bill of Rights. Madison said that courts, which he called independent tribunals of justice, will consider themselves in a peculiar manner the guardians of those rights. They will be an impenetrable bulwark against every assumption of power in the legislative or executive. They will be naturally led to resist every encroachment upon rights expressly stipulated in the Constitution, unquote. Now that is a historic statement of judicial independence. Today, drawing a line between the proper exercise of legislative power and legislative encroachment upon constitutionally protected rights, that is what makes the work of the judiciary so important and so difficult. Drawing that line should never be based on whether judges personally desire a specific outcome. During the campaign, voters told me repeatedly that they want the Supreme Court of Wisconsin to work well together, because the institution of the court including its rich history, is much bigger than any individual justice. Please know that I have heard and assimilated and intend to act upon this important message. This campaign has been an eye-opening experience. It really has been. I am not only heartened but also inspired by the quality and commitment of many people I have met along the campaign trail. Staffers, volunteers, citizens. These women and men of all ages, races, and religions are vitally committed to the betterment of our state of Wisconsin and to the advancement of conservative values as the way to address and ameliorate our many problems. I have constantly been impressed by the intelligence and goodwill of the people of Wisconsin. My list of thank yous, folks, is very long and cannot be fully stated here. But let me try to name a few. My honorary chair, former Governor Tommy G. Thompson, was never a figurehead. The man who appointed me to the Supreme Court in 1998 helped immeasurably in the campaign, and I deeply appreciate his invaluable support and friendship. Former First Lady Lori McCallum, who I think I see back here. Lori was my campaign treasurer, and former Lieutenant Governor Margaret Farrow, I'm not sure whether she's here or not, were both fabulous and indispensable. Many judges, sheriffs, district attorneys, former state bar presidents, leading members of the bar, former law clerks of mine, were extremely helpful. But I would be terribly remiss if I did not single out for special mention Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark and Waukesha County District Attorney Brad Schimmel, two spectacular public officials. Dr. Tim Westlake, former Milwaukee police officer Rick Sandoval, Waukesha County resident Robin Moore, La Crosse County Sheriff Steve Helgeson, and Outagamie County District Attorney Carrie Schneider all played key roles in helping me get out my message. When all hell broke loose with a grossly unfair and misleading ad by the Greater Wisconsin Committee, two young men, Troy Merrifield and Todd Merrifield, stepped forward to tell the truth. I have not talked with Troy or Todd in 33 years, but I hope to do so soon. In the meantime, my appreciation to these two men for their character and courage is unlimited. The irregularity, the irregularity of the post-campaign events has prevented my family, including my brother Hugh, from being here this noon, but my official family, Denise Croak, my judicial assistant, Denise Croak, and Rachel Peterson, my law clerk. There we go. They are present. They have been steady counselors, and believe me, they have handled a blizzard of messages, not all friendly messages, during the course of the campaign. Several of my judicial colleagues have provided extraordinary friendship and support. Justice Patience Rogensek, right here. Justice Annette Ziegler, I hope she is here. And is there someone? Oh, yes, yes. The tireless, indefatigable, and brilliant Justice Michael Gableman. Mike Gableman has proved to be a jack of all trades and a loyal and sterling friend. Thank you very much, Mike Gableman. Justice John Wilcox, my longtime colleague, supported me faithfully and even represented me in a debate in Portage County. John, now my campaign staff, headed up by Brian Nemore, there you go. My campaign staff worked tirelessly, and Brian worked tirelessly and insightfully to manage inadequate resources in a campaign that faced innumerable surprises and challenges. Brian deserves enormous credit. He was aided by Ashton Kirsch and Sean Smith. There we go. Vince Travato, Randy Melchert, and the remarkable David Summers, right here. They served as drivers and psychotherapists during the last days of the campaign. A new friend, Attorney Gary Gloyek, provided incredible assistance to me. Now, among my very, very good friends who stepped up big time, certainly Brian Schimming. I don't think it would be possible to have a better friend. Attorney Jim Morrison, Attorney Bill Gleisner, former Assembly Speaker John Gard, Tim and Jonna Higgins, Brad Courtney, Attorney Ave B., Charlotte Rasmussen, Deb Michaels and Ken Pearson, Brian Dake, Clay Koski, Emily Lowe, Scott Jensen, Deb and Jim Bowers, Nancy Merck, right here, Chuck and Mary Elliott, former Representative Gene Hahn. Now, this list is appallingly incomplete. I acknowledge it. I've missed people. As soon as I leave this room, I will think of others, and I will be embarrassed that I didn't name them. But thank you, dear friends, for all your help and support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, some of these people are part of my superb post-election legal team, headed up by Attorney Jim Troupis of Middleton. Jim Troupis is my 5-star Dwight D. Eisenhower in this legal effort. Attorney Dan Kelly of Milwaukee is my Omar Bradley, unless he chooses to be George Patton. Attorney Ben Ginsburg is my George C. Marshall in Washington, D.C., who will assure that this team has the resources, all the resources we need to meet any eventuality. Now, of course, I have failed to name literally hundreds of other people from the ranks of volunteers throughout Wisconsin, people like Jim Konowalski from Ozaukee County, people who absolutely deserve individual mention, and who, in fact, delivered a victory through their unprecedented get-out-the-vote effort. These people include endorsers and schedulers and researchers and pilots and so many other things. They must be recognized, and they will be recognized before I can go to sleep. I presume this is my last campaign, and that my 15 minutes of celebrity will soon be over. Greta has stopped calling. I never got the invitation to the royal wedding. It is an honor and privilege to serve on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and I must get back to the demanding work of the court as the people of Wisconsin have authorized me to do. So Jim Trupus and Dan Kelly and Brian Schimming and Brian Nemore will be available to answer questions about things that might happen. However, I want my friends to know that come what may, I intend to follow the advice of the great Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. I do not intend to go gently into that good night. So thank you, my friends. Thank you all for coming this noon. Thank you, Wisconsin. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.